What's up, all my movie-loving maniacs? This is your boy Bangful B of the Lassiter Factor, and every now and then I like to step away from movie-related stuff and do something music-related. And today I'm gonna do something that I've been meaning to do for quite some time now, and that is basically count down all my favorite albums of the 2020s so far, since we are basically halfway through the 2020s. Now, I am a 34-year-old man, and even though my music tastes have evolved over the years, I will admit I am a little disconnected from music, but after going back and looking through it, I'm like, there's a lot of music from this current decade that I really fuck with. And because I'm an obsessive weirdo that likes to rank things, I thought this would be fun, so let's get into it. But first, here are some honorable mentions. I'm big on listening to soundtracks for movies, and even though the movies were not good, I did like the soundtracks for both F9 and Fast X. Pusha T always puts out some pretty solid music, so I gotta give glory to his album, It's Almost a Dry Day. And Good to Know by JoJo. You know, JoJo, Leave, Get Out. You know, that song, she puts on some really good music within her adult life, so I definitely recommend this. And then I have two dishonorable mentions. And this is not a dishonorable mention because of how bad these two albums are or decent these two albums are, just the artist gets a dishonorable mention. And those two dishonorable mentions are going to be Donda and Vultures 1, which both albums are by Kanye West. And that's all I'm going to say about this man because, yes, I do like Kanye West's music, but him as a person, I'm just over it. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that I did listen to some songs off of both of these albums, and I thought those songs were pretty decent. But right now, I just really don't want to give Kanye West any more love or satisfaction right now until he gets his shit together. Now that those out of the way, let's get into my 25 favorite albums of the 2020s so far. At number 25 is After Hours by The Weeknd. To me, this album is a testament to how he has grown as an artist and how much he's able to experiment and basically just have every piece of work that he puts out be different than the other. The Prince of Egypt musical soundtrack. I mean, yeah, some songs are from the movie, but there's some new songs, and I felt the way they brought this play together was excellent, and the songs are surprisingly memorable. If you're a fan of musicals and if you're a fan of the movie, I highly recommend this one. At number 23 is Honestly Nevermind by Drake, and I know Kendrick might have killed Drake for you, but out of all the things Drake put out during the 2020s, this is actually my favorite, mainly because I like house music, and I thought Drake did an excellent job with this. At 22 is The Idol soundtrack. The show is trash, but the music that was present within this show I thought was pretty good and pretty decent, I must say. At number 22 is Utopia by Travis Scott. I loved his last album, Astro World, and he brought that same energy to this album, and I just loved it. Modern Gem, that is my song right there. At number 20 is the soundtrack for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Going back to the realm of soundtracks, I thought this was an excellent soundtrack that brought in all the Korean and Chinese cultures within to this one. There's a bit of K-pop here. To me, this soundtrack best represents the movie. At number 19 is 3:15:20 or Tivista, but ultimately both of these albums were by Childish Gambino, and it's what I like to call the COVID album. The first thing, which was 3:15, it was the unfinished version, and then he came out last year with the more finished and polished version of this. I'll admit I didn't really like the polished version at first, but I grew to love it mainly because that was all we had to listen to, and he did make some improvements, but overall I do like what Childish Gambino did with this overall project. Soul Sold Separately by Freddie Gibbs. This was actually the second Freddie Gibbs CD that I actually listened to, and I just loved it. This made me a fan of him, and now granted, I haven't finished listening to more of his yet, but if you are a fan of Freddie Gibbs, let me know what else I should listen to in the comment section below, but this comes in at number 18. At number 17 is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar. I'll admit, not my favorite Kendrick album, but I understand what he was doing with his album. He made this album from him, and luckily he made that up with GNX, which I'll get into in a little bit, but I did enjoy this album. I like how personal it was. I like how raw it was. We Cry Together, the big standout to me on this one. An Evening with Silk Sonic, which is Bruno Mars in Anderson .Paak. Everybody knows this album. Everybody knows the songs that are on the album. Everybody, young and old, loves the songs on here. My own mother loves this album. Again, going back to soundtracks, coming in at number 15 is the soundtrack for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is a different vibe than the soundtrack for the first movie, and to me, that was fine. It was different. It had more of an emphasis on African music, island music, Spanish music, and I thought it represented the movie excellently. At number 14 is SOS by SZA. This is, in my opinion, one of the best R&B albums I have heard in a long time. It is definitely contemporary as hell, and SZA, such an amazing singer. 13 is Hurry Up Tomorrow by The Weeknd. Once again, popping up on this list, and this album is the reason why I did this list in the first place, because this is probably the best album I've heard all year so far, and to me, this is The Weeknd's best project. Can't say the same about the movie, though. Candlestone in the New World by Childish Gambino. I went and saw him in concert last year, and this album was excellent. I'm a huge fan of Childish Gambino, and I just hope he's a lot better, because I know he canceled his tour, but this album, fire. Number 11 is Chromacopia by Tyler, the Creator. I'll admit, Tyler, the Creator albums, they take a moment for it to grow on me, but this album has definitely grown me. My favorite on this album is Judge Jude. I just love the vibe and just what the song was going for. But Chromacopia, it may not be my favorite Tyler album, but it's definitely up there. Kicking off my top 10 is the soundtrack for Across the Spider-Verse, which was done by Metro Boomin. He definitely outdid himself for the soundtrack here, because I think he did a couple songs for the first movie, but here it was just straight fire all the way around. Number 9 is From Zero by Linkin Park, which I also recently saw in concert. They took some time off after the passing of their lead singer, Chester Bennington, and they came back with a new singer, Emily Armstrong. And look, she's no Chester, but she just works with this band in this new era of Linkin Park that we are in. And I thought this was a good starting off point for this new era of Linkin Park. Number 8 is the Renaissance album by Beyoncé. Look, I don't need the Beehive coming after me because I didn't include Cowboy Carter, but I also don't need Beyonce haters coming after me because I have Beyonce on this list. What can I say? I like house music, and I really like this album. I really like her Lemonade album. To me, that just wasn't a good Beyonce album. That was a good album, period, and I thought she continued that here. This song's album was surprisingly good. 7, GNX. This album was the victory lap for Kendrick last year after his highly publicized beef with Drake. Number 6 is the soundtrack for Creed 3, which was done by Dreamville, and I thought they did an excellent job creating a soundtrack that best represents the movie. And number 5 is the Challenger soundtrack, which is done by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. What can I say? If you know me, you know this album was going to come up at some point. Love the movie and love the soundtrack, and can't wait to see what they do for the soundtrack to Tron era. 4 is Hyperdrama by Justice. I've recently discovered them for the first time. This was a good introduction to them. I love this album. I'm trying to buy it on vinyl. I love it. I just love the overall vibe of this album. And number 3 is Song Machine by Gorillaz. I'm slowly but surely becoming more of a fan of Gorillaz, and to me, this album was a good way to get into them. Runner-up, Call Me If You Get Lost by Tyler, the Creator. Yep, he's made on this list once again. This is probably my favorite rap album that I've heard from the 2020s so far. I've loved this album from front to back. Just pure excellence. But at number 1 is The Slow Rush by Tame Impala. At the start of the 2020s, particularly during the pandemic, I became a huge fan of Tame Impala, and this album to me is perfection. If there's a chance for me to see them in concert, I'm definitely going to take it. Concludes my top 25 favorite albums of the 2020s so far. Do you agree with this list? Do you disagree? And what are your top 20 or 25 favorite albums of the 2020s so far? Let me know in the comment section below. This is your boy Bankful B of the Lassiter Factor. Stay safe, wash your hands, peace.